Today we'll be looking at the law of sines. In the previous part of the unit, we learned about trigonometry, about sine, cosine, and tangent, and everything we learned about involved right triangles. All of those ratios had to have right triangles to be able to solve. Now, with the law of sines today and the law of cosines tomorrow, we're actually going to learn a way that we can solve any type of triangle for missing sides or missing angles. So, in this video, we'll look specifically at the law of sines. So the law of sines lets you find missing measures in a triangle when you know the measures of two angles and a side, or two sides and a non-included angle. In other words, you can use the law of sines. Sorry, let's use the picture that's around here. You can use the law of sines when you have two angles and a side. So let's say this was 54 and this was 65, and any side, so let's say 12. You can use the law of sines when you have two angles and a side, or when you have two sides, let's say this is 6 and 8, and a non-included angle. In other words, not the angle here. So either this angle, let's say this is 42, or the other angle, 38. So the only case where we really can't use a law of sines is when we have two sides and this included angle. What the law of sines states is that the sine of angle A over the side opposite A, which is this side, equals the sine of angle B over the side opposite angle B, also equals the sine of angle C over the side opposite angle C. And usually when we do this, we're only going to be looking at two ratios at a time. So let's go ahead and set up a problem and see if we can solve it. So here we have triangle A, B, C. We know this side is 12, let's say 14, and let's say 52. So first off, you recognize you have an angle and two sides, and the angle is not between them, so law of sines. So sine 52, that's your angle, over its opposite side, which is 14. And let's say we're trying to solve for x here. Equals sine x, because you don't know that angle, over 12, because that's the side opposite 12, x. Now, of course, we cross multiply, so we get 12 sine 52 equals 14 sine x. Divide both sides by 14 now. So you get 12 sine 52 over 14 equals sine x. Now this piece here, 12 sine 52 divided by 14, you can just type that in your calculator. But be very careful. You make sure you want to type in 12 sine, and it'll open up a parentheses. You need to make sure that you close that parentheses before you divide by 14, or you'll get the wrong answer. So we type that in our calculator. We get 12 sine 52 divided by 14 gives us 0.675 equals sine x. Now, before we learned, if we have an x inside the sine, cosine, or tangent, all we have to do is find the negative sign or the inverse sign. So when you calculate, type in sine -1, so second sine of your decimal, 6.675, and hit enter. So you get that x equals 42.45 degrees. So that's what that angle is. Now, I could also ask you to solve for this missing angle. And if you look closely, you'll notice you have a triangle. And the three sides of a triangle should add up to 180. So you subtract the two angles that you know. And you get that this top angle is 85.55 degrees. Now at this point, you could even calculate this missing side using law of sines again. So sine 52 over 14 equals sine 85.55 over z. Cross multiply. Z sine 52 equals 14 sine 85.55. Now, how do you get z by itself? Well, you just divide by sine 52. So type that in your calculator, and once again, be very careful of your parentheses that you close them before you divide by sine 52. So 14 sine 85.55, close your parentheses, divided by sine of 52. So you get that z equals 17.713. So really, you can solve any of the missing sides So let's try another one. Here we have triangle ABC again. And this time we'll give you sides of 8. Let's see, what do we do on that one? 2 sides we started you off with, okay. 8, 54 degrees, and 75 degrees. I want you to pause the video right now, and I want you to try to solve for x using the law of sines. All right, so first off, realize that if it's a triangle and you have 2 angles, you can find the third. So you subtract those 2 from 180, you get that this angle is 51 degrees. So now you can say sine 75 over 8, because that's the side and the angle that correspond, equals sine 51 over x. Cross multiply, x sine 75 equals 8 sine 51. Divide both sides by sine 75. And then just type in your calculator, being very careful that you close your parentheses after doing sine 51. And you get that x equals 6.436. Now, we could also solve for this missing side if we wanted to as well. And more practice, that'd be sine 75 over 8 equals sine 54 over z. Cross multiply. Z sine 75 equals 8 sine 54. And just divide by sine 75. Once again, being very careful that you close your parentheses after you type sine 54. So you get that z equals 6.7. All right, let's try one word problem. And we'll do one from your homework. So let's look at number 13 on your homework. This is one about 2 surveyors are on opposite sides of a swamp from the law of sines homework. It says 2 surveyors are on opposite sides of a swamp. So you have one surveyor here and another here, and here's the swamp between them. To find the distance between them, one surveyor locates a point T that is 180 meters from her location at point P. So we'll say she's here at P, and she finds a place over here at point T that's 180 meters away. The angles of sight from T to the other surveyor's position are, so it's a terrible triangle, but there's R. Measure 72 for angle RPT and 63 for PTR. How far apart are the surveyors? So we want to know how far apart they are. So can we find our missing angle here because we know 2? We sure can. So we subtract 72 and 63 from 180 and we get 45 degrees. So sine 45 over 180 equals sine 63 because that corresponds to x. Cross multiply, so x sine 45 equals 180 sine 63. Now divide by sine 45, of course, on both sides. And make sure you don't forget your parentheses. So 180 sine 63 divided by sine 45 tells me that they are 226.813 meters apart. All right, let's look at one last problem to get practice when we're solving for a missing angle. So here we have triangle ABC. We know 8 and 5. And we know that this angle here is 36 degrees. And we want to know x right here. So we're going to do sine 36 over 5 equals sine x over 8. Cross multiply, 8 sine 36 equals 5 sine x. Now you want to get sine x by itself, so you divide both sides by 5. And type that in your calculator, being very careful that you close your parentheses. So we get 0.94 equals sine x. And whenever we have sine x, we do the inverse sign in your calculator. So second sine of 0.94 gives me that x equals 70.05, so 70 degrees. All right, make sure you get your homework done so you can get some good practice with that. Thanks for watching.